Mr. Christmas by Roger Hargreaves. In my snow-covered cottage at the South Pole, I was having breakfast. That frosty morning, as I was popping my last piece of marmalade-covered plum pudding into my mouth, there was a knock at the door of Mistletoe Cottage. When I opened the door, I saw that it was the postman. "Hello, Percy," I said. "Come on in out of the cold." "Don't mind if I do," replied Percy. "There's a bit of a nip in the air today." "I've got a letter for you," said Percy, "and it has a North Pole postmark. I suppose it's from your uncle." Everyone knows what the South Pole knows about my famous uncle who lives in the North Pole. "Good old Father Christmas," I chuckled. "Haven't heard from him for ages." "Well," remarked Percy, "thanks for the warm-up. I'd better be off now." I read the envelope. "Dear nephew," read the letter. "I hope all is well down there. We are busy as usual up there, getting things organized for Christmas, which is one of the reasons I am writing to you. Can you help? Each year, I am finding more and more difficult to get around these Mr. Men. There seem to be so many of them around the place. I was wondering if this year, as a big favor to your old uncle, you could stand for me. Hoping you can help your ever-loving uncle." That very evening, I put through a long-distance call to North Pole 253. "Hello," chuckled a rather deep, rumbling voice at the other end of the telephone. "Father Christmas speaking." "Hello, Uncle," I said. "Your letter arrived this morning, and I'd love to help." "Oh, good for you," the voice rumbled in my ear. "If you have a pencil and paper, I'll give you the Mr. Men's names and addresses." "I had no idea there were so many of them," I said. "Do you think you can manage?" asked my famous uncle. "I'll lend you a couple of reindeer if you like." "Oh, no," I said. "I can manage." I read through the list of Mr. Men when I was having supper. "This is going to keep me busy," I said. "First things first," he thought to myself. "And the first thing I need is transport. And the first thing to do if I need transport," I thought I'd chewed, "is to talk to the wizard. Wizard Winterbottom. Oh, wow. What a lot of them. Oh, and I could spot Mr. Small there. He's right there. And his small thinking cap bottle. And there's Mr. Strong. I don't know what that one is. Could someone help me that out? I think it's, Mr. I don't know. Mr. Grumble, yeah. Mr. Clever, Mr. Uppity, Mr. Forgetful, Mr. Strong, Mr. Dizzy, Mr. Chatterbox, Mr. Topsy-Turvy, Mr. Greedy, Mr. Muddle, Mr. Daydream, Mr. Happy, Mr. Nosy, Mr. Impossible, and Mr. Noisy. The following morning, I set off to see the wizard. It had been snowing again during the night, and I was quite out of breath at the time I arrived at Wizard Winterbottom's castle. I must say it's the big castle I've ever seen. Mind you, it has to be big, because Wizard Winterbottom is a giant. And their goodness knows how many times taller than Mason the huge figure of Wizard Winterbottom. "Christmas!" he boomed in a voice that made my head spin. "How nice to see you. Come and follow me." "Now," thundered Wizard Winterbottom, "what brings you here on a cold winter's morning like this?" I told him about my famous uncle, and all about I've been asked to help, and all about the Mr. Men, and all how about this, and all the fact that I needed transport. Special transport. "Ha!" retorted the wizard. "Can you help me?" I softly. "Yes," he said eventually, "but I can't do anything in the middle of my next week." "Thank you very much," I replied. "Goodbye," I shouted, but he didn't hear me, but he was too busy thinking. Especially 2 weeks later, I paid a return visit to the enormous castle. "Hello, Christmas," boomed the giant voice. He took me to his kitchen, lifted me up on his enormous table, and set me down with big enough a bump. "That's your transport," said Wizard Winterbottom. "But that's your teapot," I said in bewilderment. "You've been looking for flying saucers," he laughed. "Well, you look at the world's first flying teapot." "Gosh," I said. Well, how does this work? Teabags, came the thunderous reply. I've put an engine inside the spout. All you can do is refuel a beam. That is about as you can fly 3 times the speed of sound. We took the flying teapot outside the castle, and I pressed the start button in great excitement. I zoomed right across the South Pole, no time at all, and landed safely back at the castle. Well, as Mr. Witterbaum, I was lost for words. Fantastic, suggested the wizard. I grinned. Abso-jolly-lutely, I replied. That evening, I sat down and made the list for all the Mr. Men. Another list. A very long list. I didn't know about 3 o'clock. I spent the next week and a half wrapping up all the presents, and almost before I knew it, December 14th, 24 of life. Christmas Eve. It's gonna be a long day. I thought to myself as I packed all the brightly colored puzzles in my flying teapot. It was snowing highly as I took the softball. That Christmas Eve was indeed a very long day, and a long time too. And the moon was just disappearing over the horizon of Loudland, where I delivered one of the last presents to Mr. Quiet. I was quite exhausted. Christmas morning dawned, and afterward I was starting to open the presents. At 7 o'clock, Mr. Persnickety opened his present. 365 yellow lizards, one for every day of the year. At 5, Mr. Small opened his present, 1 jelly bean, and he said, "Gods, I got the new jelly bean." Gift wrap, banana flavored feast. At 7, Mr. Greedy opened his present. A book, 100,001 Ways to Cook an Ox. Mr. Greedy licked his lips and rubbed his tummy. At 7:15, Mr. Tall opened his present. Socks, striped socks, the longest, stripiest pair of stretchy socks you've ever seen. At 7:12, Mr. Muddle opened a pack of cornflakes. Funny so the present. He thought to himself, not noticing his real present. At 7:25, Mr. Mean opened his present, a purse, a very small purse, just small enough then to make his money. At 7:30, Mr. Forgetful opened his present. Is it my birthday? He forgot to himself. At 10:20, Mr. Chatterbox opened his present, a dictionary. How very, 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 very useful, he murmured. At 7:45, Mr. Topsy-Turvy opened his present, a picture. How nice, he said as he hung on the wall, upside down. At 10:08, Mr. Uppity opened his present, a present that who was everything, a cold-bladed back scratcher. At 10:08, Mr. Funny opened his present, a book of knock-knock jokes. Knock, knock, who's there? You know, sort of thing. At 8 o'clock precisely, Mr. Silly opened his present, an electric, fully automatic, instant, digital, computerized thingamajig. What's an electric, fully instant, digital, computerized thingamajig? I have no idea. Just after 8 o'clock, Christmas morning, the telephone rang. Hello, rumbled the voice. Hello, I answered. Happy Christmas. That's me. Laugh Farmer Christmas, and nice Christmas to you too. And that's me too, I replied. How'd it go? Father Christmas asked me. Just got back, I said. Me too, said my Uncle Weary. Have a bit of problem with France, he added. Got stuck in a chimney. It's all this mince pies, I chuckled. And that's the end of the story. Well, nearly. Almost. Not quite. About a week ago, at 5 o'clock, Mr. Slow finally managed to open the present. 5 o'clock in the afternoon was the time. And the day? New Year's Eve. No boy, that's Burgerfulpus cat. Why is the ending not entirely blank? This is a thingamajig. I think Mr. Slow is good. Think it's some egads. I like a pizza. Merry Christmas in the fall.